Hi, good evening, and welcome to the Cerritos Planning Commission regular meeting for Wednesday, February 7th, 2024 at 7 p.m. What we'd like to do is call the meeting to order. And the next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And Commissioner Byrd is going to recite it for us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the roll call.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gilheis. I will do roll call. Commissioner Member Byrd,
Present.
Commissioner Gandhi,
Present.
Commissioner Polito,
Present.
Vice Chair Gilheis,
Present.
Chair Javeri. All commissioners noted present with the exception of Chair Javeri.
Okay, moving along to on the agenda. This is our public comments or suggestions. This section is reserved for comments related to items not listed on the agenda for this evening, but are within the subject matter or jurisdiction of the commission. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Public comments on the agenda items will be taken at the time the item is before the commission. So I open up the public comments. Seeing that we have no public comments to be made, I'll close the public comments. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the Wednesday, January 10th, 7 p.m. Planning Commission special meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Gandhi and a second by Commissioner Polito.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Gandhi,
Aye.
Commissioner Polito,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gilheis,
Aye.
Chair Javeri. Motion passes with a vote of 4-0 with Chair Javeri noted absent for the record.
Okay, so moving along, there is a public hearings section on the agenda.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We do not have any public hearings this evening for consideration by the Commission.
Okay, so we'll move to the next item, which is new and old business. So item 7A is the informational report to the Cerritos Planning Commission, providing an overview of the City of Cerritos 2023 General Plan Annual Progress Report for submittal to the California Governor's Office of the Planning and Research.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Gilheis, and good evening, members of the Cerritos Planning Commission. As mentioned, item 7A this evening is an informational report providing information to the Planning Commission on the city's 2023 General Plan Annual Progress Report. As mentioned, this is an informational item. No action is needed by the Planning Commission tonight, but the item serves to update the Planning Commission on the city's achievements and implementation of the general plan goals and policies over the last calendar year. Before we begin staff's presentation this evening, I would like to mention that the report before you under 7A was a lot of work. It was a cumulative effort by everybody here in the room today. And I want to, before we start, take the opportunity to thank everybody for their contributions. We at the city, we take pride in our implementation of the general plan, and it could not happen without the department and division heads before you today and their cumulative staff. So on behalf of the Department of Community Development, thank you to everybody that is here tonight. And for the presentation, I will turn your attention over to Management Analyst Mariel Angelis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aguila. Good evening, Honorable Chair and members of the Planning Commission. The item before you this evening is an informational report on the city's 2023 General Plan Annual Progress Report to be submitted to the California Governor's Office of Planning and Research, OPR, and the California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, as requested or required by the government code. So at this time, I would like to turn your attention to the screen for a PowerPoint presentation. Pursuant to the California Government Code Section 65300, the General Plan is a state-mandated, planning-related policy document establishing comprehensive and long-term guidance for the physical development, planning, and zoning of a city. To provide this framework for development, a general plan is required by state law to include a minimum of 7 elements. Within each element are goals, policies, and implementation programs that a city utilizes to make development-related decisions and to achieve the overall vision of the city. The City of Cerritos General Plan was first adopted in 1971 in an effort to create a park-life community with balanced development and emphasis on high-quality standards and quality of life with a view to establish goals for early infrastructure. In 1988, the city completed its first general plan update in response to newer commercial, industrial, and residential construction activity. As the city continued to develop, becoming nearly built out in the early 2000s, it was evident that the city had achieved a significant amount of the goals established in 1988. As such, a comprehensive update to the general plan was completed and adopted in 2004 and is the current version of the city's general plan today. In addition to the 7 state-mandated elements, the city added 3 additional elements to guide development and address specific needs of the city: a growth management element, an air quality element, and a community design element. A brief description of each element of the city's general plan can be found on pages 2 and 3 of the agenda report. In an effort to ensure that cities, including charter cities, effectively implement general plan programs, the state of California requires all cities to prepare an annual report providing a detailed summary of its progress in implementing the goals and policies found within its general plan. In addition to the general plan annual progress report, jurisdictions are also required to submit a separate housing element annual progress report to provide an update on the status of the jurisdiction's progress in facilitating housing in accordance with the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, RHNA, requirements. Both progress reports are required to be submitted to OPR and HCD by April 1st of each year. In response to this requirement, the city has prepared its 2023 General Plan APR for submittal to the state. The city's 2023 General Plan APR provides a comprehensive overview of the city's ongoing efforts to implement the general plan's goals and policies during 2023. While the city continuously works to implement all goals and policies of the general plan, tonight I will provide an overview of implementation efforts during calendar year 2023, specifically identifying city programs that have seen updates since the previous reporting year. So I will start with the land use element, which has 3 updates to report. Program LU-1 updates Cerritos zoning ordinance. In 2023, the city updated its zoning code related to drive-through service restaurant uses in response to a proposed drive-through development. Program LU-2 established an economic development strategic plan. In 2023, the City Council adopted priority goals as part of the city's strategic plan, one of which was to update the city's existing economic development strategic plan. Staff is in the process of preparing a request for proposal, RFP, to be released in the coming weeks to identify a consultant to assist the city with this update. Lastly, Program LU-4 is related to proactive code enforcement activities to ensure the proper maintenance of Cerritos properties. In 2023, the city managed approximately 1,930 code enforcement cases to ensure compliance with the Cerritos Municipal Code. Next, I will discuss the community design element. The city is pleased to report that in 2023, the Southern California Edison Underground Utilities Project on Shoemaker Avenue between 183rd Street and South Street has satisfied permit issuance requirements after delay of the project due to a project redesign. Construction is anticipated to begin in 2024, satisfying program number CD-4 regarding implementation of priority-based utility undergrounding in the city. Additionally, as part of the city's ongoing efforts to work closely with wireless telecommunication applicants to ensure compliance for facilities installed in the city's public right-of-ways, as outlined in Program CD-6, the City Council in 2023 approved a fiber optic network master plan and directed city staff to implement a municipal broadband network for the benefit of economic growth. As part of this effort, the City of Cerritos continues to incrementally build infrastructure in support of a fiber optic broadband network in order to prepare for future private and public technology demands in Cerritos. Next, I will discuss the circulation element. The city is pleased to report that the city continues to identify and evaluate intersections that experience higher accident rates and assess implementation of pedestrian modifications, especially during major capital improvement projects. Next, I will discuss the programs in the city's state certified 2021 through 2029 housing element. The city continues to implement housing programs to promote housing for the homeless and persons with disabilities and special needs. The city's municipal code and zoning map includes an emergency shelter overlay in the MC1 zone, in compliance with Senate Bill 2. Additionally, the city continues to work closely with Los Angeles County Health and Human Services and several other agencies such as PATH and LASA to make available county-wide resources to support individuals with disabilities and those experiencing homelessness. As part of requirements set forth by the state, the city continues to establish and implement programs that preserve and facilitate the development and streamlining of housing in the city, specifically in an effort to ensure adequate sites to meet the city's RHNA requirement to develop affordable housing. The city continues to implement its boarding house permit process, allowing homeowners the ability to rent out a portion of their dwelling unit for long-term purposes, and continues to explore opportunities to further promote housing development through the Density Bonus Program. The city also continues to monitor and preserve the affordability of affordable housing units within the city. The city, with approval by the City Council, worked closely with the City Attorney's Office for guidance and assistance regarding the purchase and resale of affordable senior housing units within the city's affordable senior housing community. In 2023, the city purchased one moderate income housing unit to be rehabilitated and sold to a qualified senior resident. Additionally, the city continues to implement programs related to shared housing and accessory dwelling units. The city is pleased to report that in 2023, the city issued permits for 13 accessory dwelling units. Upon receipt and filing of this report to HCD, the city will receive 13 housing credits towards its RHNA allocation. Lastly, as part of the requirements set forth by the state, the city continues to seek federal and state grant funding opportunities for housing development within the community. In 2023, the city received reimbursement of approximately $69,000 in Senate Bill 2 grant funds to recoup funds expended for the city's 2021 through 2029 housing element update and certification by HCD. Next, I will discuss the safety element. One of the city's top priorities continues to be ensuring the health and safety of the general public. In an effort to do so, the city continues to implement its programs within the safety element, including the annual review of the city's multi-hazard functional plan and the provision of educational materials regarding hazardous materials and hazardous waste to the general public through the city's newsletter and bulletin board messages in the city's TV3 channel. The city also continues to partner with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department by hosting programs to raise awareness regarding crime towards the community's youth. In 2023, the city and the Sheriff's Department hosted an active shooter training seminar for members of the ABC Unified School District, and additionally, conducted compliance operations on underage tobacco sales to reinforce tobacco law compliance. Next is the city's conservation element. The city continues to take a proactive approach to inform residents about the importance of water conservation, including the publication of a drought-tolerant landscape design manual and public outreach campaign on the city's website, on the city's TV3 channel, in local newspapers, and in resident water bills. In addition, the city continues to preserve and expand access to the city's history through various literature materials available at the Cerritos Library. Next is the open space recreation element. The city continues to partner with the County of Los Angeles Parks and Recreation Division to host various events such as the annual Kids Fishing Derby at Don Canabi Community Regional Park. Next is the city's air quality element. Over the past several years, the city has implemented new technologies to reduce vehicle emissions and instead promote remote access of city services, including online billing and payment of water bills, online class registration for recreation and library services, online parking permits and enforcement, an online OpenGov budget viewing platform, online reporting of city maintenance issues through the city's Go Request app, and online submittal of planning and permitting applications. In 2023, the city further expanded such efforts through robust digital marketing, digitizing of the city's newsletter, online recruitment and applicant management, social media marketing, and online broadcast of public meetings. The city also continues to implement virtual access to all business license services and continues to upgrade access to online services. Lastly is the city's growth management element. The city continues to implement efforts related to the continual growth of the community, including the annual review of emergency response times to ensure public safety. In 2023, the average response times for sheriff deputies is 4.2 minutes for emergency calls and 7.2 minutes for priority calls. Additionally, in 2023, the city began updating its Shop Cerritos website, which serves as an ongoing business directory of Cerritos-based businesses. The city is pleased to report that the updated Shop Cerritos website is anticipated to launch early this year. This concludes the discussion on programs. In addition to the housing programs as part of the housing element process, the City of Cerritos received a RHNA allocation of 1,908 housing units, consisting of housing units for each income category. Within the housing element annual progress report, the city is required to report how many units were built in 2023 in furtherance of meeting this allocation. As mentioned, in 2023, the city issued a total of 13 permits for the development of new housing, which will be counted towards the city's RHNA allocation. These 13 permits were each for new accessory dwelling units. Of these, 3 units have been completed. The affordability of these units are self-declared by the applicant during the application process. I do want to note that typically for a self-declared very low income unit, the unit may be built for another family member, at which there would be no rental transaction, deeming the unit very low. From 2021 through 2023, the city has issued permits for the construction of 19 new housing units, reducing the city's RHNA allocation to 1,889. At this time, as this is an informational item only, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review and discuss the information provided and receive and file this report. This concludes my presentation, and I thank you all for your attention. I'd also like to take this time to recognize the cumulative efforts of city staff members here this evening. Director of Community Development, Kristen Aguila, current Planning Manager, Sandy Cisneros, Advanced Planning Manager, Sabrina Chan, Information Technology Manager, Aaron Benjamin, Associate Civil Engineer, Amandeep Mann, Public Information Manager, Andrew Baumgartner, City Librarian and Marketing Manager, Annie Hilton, Community Participation Manager, Chelsea Askey, Public Safety Manager Daryl Evans, and Recreation Services Superintendent Sherry Titus. We thank you all and we acknowledge all the efforts that you've implemented or helped implement for the city's general plan programs. And with that, all of city staff, including myself and Ms. Aguila, are available to answer any questions that the Planning Commission may have. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm always, I'm going to say it, excited to get this report because it tells me how our city's trying to look forward. And I would say, I asked, how come we had so many people here tonight? Were we getting extra credit? And you deserve extra credit because this report is amazing. So thank you for all the hard work you've done with it. I do have a couple comments or questions actually, but I want to open it up to my other commissioners if you have something. Okay. So I wanted to ask about CIR, so it's about the circulation element, CIR-2, implement traffic signal coordination. It says implement a traffic signal coordination program that will enhance traffic flow. The city continues to monitor its traffic signal coordination program by way of a third-party traffic consultant maintenance. If a residents of Cerritos wanted to see that information and see that traffic signal coordination program, how would they access that data?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Gilheis. You're referring to CIR 2 found on page 18 of the agenda report. To address your question, I will refer to Associate Civil Engineer Amandeep Mann.
Thank you, Kristen. So as such, we don't have like a computerized system that I can show to somebody, but we do have various signals connected. It's some are in the town center, some in the mall, in which we coordinate the signals for the efficient movement of traffic. But in the future also, we are going to slowly and systematically connect all the traffic signals in the city so that it flows efficiently.
So if a citizen wanted to know if there was the possibility to have one of their streets on this coordination, do they just come to City Hall and speak with you and work
Yes,
work out the
definitely, we
details?
can talk to them about it.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Couple more questions. Moving to the housing element. So HOU-1, which looks like it's page 15. So it's the housing for homeless and special needs. And it says the city continues to pursue this program to comply with the state law and promote housing for homeless and special needs residents. How does a Cerritos citizen or resident find out more details about that program?
Thank you, Vice Chair Gilheis. So the city, through the community participation division, as well as the community safety services division, both collectively provide assistance for persons with special needs or homeless individuals. And so I'll begin by turning your question over to Communication Participation Manager Chelsea Askey, and then she can refer to Public Safety Manager Daryl Evans if he wants to add anything further. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aguila. Good evening. Nice to be here. The homeless, we call it a team here in the city, actually has a few of us working with homeless individuals and special needs in Cerritos. So Daryl and I work cooperatively together as kind of like the front of, the front of the street individuals in our teams. So if we have someone that is in the city that's homeless, residents tend to call the sheriff's station immediately, and the sheriff's station, and Daryl can speak more on this, has an individual that goes out and assesses that homeless individual to really kind of figure out what their needs are, if they need anything at all. If they're looking for homeless shelters, if they're looking for food subsidies, if they're looking for transitional housing, then those individuals would contact myself and one of my staff, and we move forward with our agency partners LASA, PATH, Kingdom Causes, a bunch of different shelters that serve Los Angeles County. And we reach out to them depending on what that person might need. If it's a mental health issue, that's a totally different ballgame, and we're seeing more of that in Cerritos. Our recent homeless count for the city only recognized that we had 41 people in the city at large, going through every neighborhood track and every strip mall and the mall route, our entire foundation of Cerritos, our landscape of only 41 people, and many of those are transitional. So they might stay here at night and go somewhere else during the day. So it's not a huge issue, but we're keeping track of it because LA County, as you know, we're in, definitely has a significant issue with homeless and special needs individuals. So Daryl, if you want to add anything to that.
Thank you, Chelsea. Just wanted to add to some of those comments that part of the component is code enforcement. So we use our code enforcement folks to go out into the community. As you may be aware, we have 3 full-time code enforcement officers and 1 part-time code enforcement officer. Clarence Stevens is our part-time code enforcement officer. He is designated, his primary duties are to enforce the codes in and around the business districts. And he also has the collateral duty to deal with our transient population or homeless population. The reason why is most of them are found in the business district, so they go hand in hand. If you're not aware, and maybe this might be of assistance to you, we do have a Cerritos encampment cleanup protocol. It's a flow chart, if you would. Talks about how the city responds to reports. The very beginning, it talks about received a complaint or field observation, and then it flows through there. But the very first move on the chessboard is always the humanitarian efforts that go out. And then our response is based on case law, about how we notify people, how much time we give them between cleanups. And there's, without going into this item by item, unless you'd like to, there's a whole process for that. But generally speaking, by the time someone identifies a homeless individual, we will contact LASA and our other partners to come out there immediately for humanitarian efforts. Offer them housing or other county services. If that doesn't work, then we will go out there if necessary and provide notice that they can't be in a certain place. Again, I'm sure you're aware that there is case law out there that if you're homeless, you can stay in a public place unless the city offers housing. And here in Cerritos, we do not have any housing facilities here, so we utilize the county. That being said, I just let you know that the deputies, our CSOs, our code enforcement officers are always out there. Today we did a sweep you'd be familiar with up on Moore Street. We have some RVs or recreational vehicles that are parked up there. Today the count was 14. Occasionally we have comments about them being at the town center. And if you see them over there, that's pretty easy because that's all private property. So we work closely with the management over there. We provide notice, we provide outreach, and then ultimately we provide them with a notice that they're on private property and they have to leave. And we did have, I think, like 13 or so over there. It got down to 4. Today there's more. They come, they go. They're very transitory. But we're very assertive on providing help and then enforcing the regulations, that Cerritos has. So I don't know if you have any specific questions regarding homeless or transients.
No, I just, when I was reading this, I'm like, okay, so this is kind of high level, but for the people that may be watching, like, and they see it every day, or I cross over that bridge going to church down on Del Amo. There's a lot of stuff going on over
Yes.
there. So who would a Cerritos resident reach out to and have a conversation with? So now I have names and faces, and so that's good to know. And you guys have it sounds like you have a very well laid out plan. I love the fact you have that process flow chart that as how we deal with it. But I was really more encouraged by your comment that the first approach is the humanitarian approach. So thank you for sharing all that with me. I appreciate that. I just have a couple more questions and comments in the housing element. Page 17, HOU-8. A density bonus program. It says the city continues to explore opportunities to promote the development of housing within the community by way of a density bonus program.
Yes, I can go ahead and address that. Thank you. Pursuant to state law, the city's 2021-2029 housing element included a density bonus program. Now, here in Cerritos, if the city receives an inquiry from either a private property owner or a housing developer for the construction of housing or the proposal to build housing, as the Planning Commission is aware, we do have a zoning code, and the densities permitted in appropriate zones are laid out in that zoning code as well as the general plan before you today. Anytime a housing developer inquires about the development of housing, the city holds those developers or the property owners to those appropriate zoning and density standards. However, I should note that there are limitations under state law encouraging higher density. We've been very fortunate here in the city that we have outstanding relationships with property owners and really the housing developers who are interested in developing in Cerritos. And so the applicability of the density bonus program here in Cerritos has been non-existent. We haven't had to apply the density program to development here in Cerritos.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Mayor.
Sure.
There's mandated increases in housing, right, from the state, and we're behind on that, right?
I wouldn't say that we are behind. As indicated in this evening's presentation, the California gave the city of Cerritos an allocation of 1,908 housing units that needed to be planned for, and sites need to be identified in our housing element to accommodate those 1,900 units. The housing law and housing element law does not require the city to build that housing. And so we're required to make available sites for the accommodation of those 1,908 units. But as mentioned, we, the city, we don't facilitate the development of housing. It's facilitated by private property owners and the development industry.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, so I just have one more, probably more of a comment, maybe ends with a question. So page 18, HOU-11 and HOU-12. Those talk about facilitating construction of multifamily housing and then multifamily and residential mixed-use housing. And so a lot of that is, driven by state law and other things. I get that. But then what I find would seem to me to be something of a tug of war is when you look at page 19, HOU-15 is Single Family Housing Addition Program, and its program objective is to prevent overcrowding of existing neighborhoods. But that's one element that seems to be going against ADUs and multifamily. And so what's the big picture that Cerritos is looking at to balance those? Because they both can't win.
Yes, you are absolutely correct. And so I'll talk kind of bigger picture rather than the specific goals. Pursuant to the general plan's goals and policies, the city is concerned and prioritizing the preservation of existing single-family residential neighborhoods. The Planning Commission, for those of you who have either considered the development projects, or you all live in the community, recent housing development projects, you will find that most recently, at least in the last, for as long as I can remember, 20 years, the development of multifamily units here in the city are infill projects. The reuse of either dilapidated or underutilized commercial properties that are reused for multifamily residential projects. And so you are correct that program 15 and the multifamily 11 and 12 do kind of conflict, but I do want to note that 15 is to encourage existing property owners to invest in their property, to stay in the city and add on to their homes, much like all of the items that come before the Planning Commission for your consideration. And so the goal is to preserve that single family neighborhood development in neighborhoods, and to facilitate multifamily development where reuse opportunities are available with minimal to no impacts to existing single-family home neighborhoods or adjacent property owners.
Thank you. I appreciate that information. That's all the comments that I had. Do my fellow commissioners have?
About that subject, I'd just like to say, as a real estate salesperson, broker in this area for the last decades, many decades, no city facilitates the flow of traffic better than the city of Cerritos. I think we all kind of know that because you go through some of these cities and it's just ridiculous. I'm so proud of the work you guys do in this city. Thank you.
Commissioner Polito, did you have questions? Okay. Commissioner Gandhi?
Thank you very much. It's good seeing everybody here that puts in a lot of the work behind the scenes. It's nice to put faces to the work that's in front of us, and I really want to thank all of you for being here. I'm going to have some really simple questions. So, on your LU2, you have an RFP out for a consultant, correct? Oh, sorry, it's page 7.
So
Go ahead.
for under LU2, which is page 7 of the housing element, pursuant to the city council direction during their strategic planning session, staff has been directed to update our economic development strategic plan. So staff is in the process of preparing our request for proposals. So that should be released in the coming weeks. And so we would go out to look for consultants to help us update our economic development strategic plan and bring it before council to identify a chosen consultant.
And just out of curiosity, what does something like that cost the city?
So it's been quite a long time since we last updated our strategic plan. As mentioned in the report, it was last updated in 2007. In initial discussions with financial and economic firms, we're estimating around $75,000.
Okay. And then we did kind of recoup 69,000 for the previous one.
The $69,000 recouped was for the preparation of the 2021-2029 housing element, an element within the general plan.
Wonderful. And then again, out of curiosity, since the last year, how many codes have we added to our municipal code book, roughly?
So
How
in
many-
in terms of codes that we have added, during calendar year 2023, as mentioned in the presentation this evening, we did one development code amendment pertaining to drive-through service restaurants.
And that was the only change?
In calendar year 2023, yes.
Okay, wonderful. On the CD4, the implementation priority-based utility undergrounding programs, so what percentage of the wires or the electrical stuff is underground and what is left? What percentage is left?
For that question, I'll go ahead and defer to Associate Civil Engineer Amandeep Mann, and then if our Information Technology Manager, Aaron Benjamin, would like to weigh in, he can do so as well.
Thank you. So I don't have that information, how much percentage we have done, but I think this might be our last project, Shoemaker Avenue, because of the funds and the delays for these kind of projects. We might not be doing these projects anymore for utility underground for electric, but maybe Aaron can have more information on that.
Good evening. No, nothing to add.
So this is the last project we're doing, but we still have wiring that's above ground?
Yes, we do. Along some of the major arterial streets like Marquardt, I believe Artesia, we do have some, but we don't have any projects in our pipeline yet to underground those facilities.
I will also add that with any proposal submitted to the City of Cerritos for new development or reuse of properties, Through the Department of Community Development as well as through Public Works, applicants are required to underground utilities. If new utilities are required, they are required to be underground.
On the arterial streets, when you guys doing this underground wiring, are you adding a cable for the high-speed internet, fiber, along with it, or is it two different things?
Again, good evening. Thank you, Commissioner Gandhi. Yes, as it spoke to in the report, we are looking for every opportunistic project that we could add conduit within the underground area. It becomes very challenging when you start to add broadband over top of something like electric, because now you have utilities on top of each other. So again, we would just work with Public Works and make sure that we're following code compliance.
Thank you very much. On the pedestrian modification, CIR 4 on page 12, luckily I get to do a lot of walking in my neighborhood, and I've kind of had the scare of almost being run over about 3 times in the last 2 months. And just trying to figure out, what do you look for to make improvements in that kind of an area? Is there anything that's... So I'll be very specific. The two places where I almost got run over was crossing South Street on Shoemaker and crossing Droxford on Shoemaker. So there's a left turn out of Droxford onto Shoemaker. People tend not to slow down. I think they see the light before it's going to go yellow. They want to crush through. And then on the South Street, usually it's the people taking the right turn onto South Street from Shoemaker. I don't know if it's a part that's hidden and they can't see it, or they're in a hurry to go. So
when we do, when we get requests for pedestrian studies, like for the safety, we look at various factors. What's the pedestrian count over there? What's the visibility? Can a car coming see a pedestrian? What's the speed of that street? So there are a number of factors. Is the school located nearby? So we look at the various factors and what's the condition of the pavement markings, and whatever the study recommends, we try to upgrade those features.
Commissioner Gandhi, if I could add to that, and you're right, last year we had nearly 600 traffic collisions in the city. I think it was 640 actually. The number one reason for traffic collision is excessive speed, followed by signs, people not stopping for the signals and or stop signs and those sort of things. So one, engineering takes a look at it, from a physical point of view. But if there's a problem where people are not obeying the signs, then the second phase of that would be to alert the Sheriff's Department. We do have 3 deputies assigned to the motorcycle detail. Each shift has 1 traffic deputy assigned to it, if you would, solely for traffic enforcement, and then they're augmented by 3 other deputies on motorcycles that'll go out there. Last year, they wrote, let's see here, I had the notes here, almost 3,000 citations. So a lot of people, receive tickets, but not everyone, obviously. But if there's a problem area, we take observations and reports from the public, along with our crossing guards, because we have a lot of crossing guards out there, 23 intersections. They see a lot as well, and they alert us to where the problems are. And so what we'll do is send deputies out there and enforce the law. And then generally, when you're in residential areas, we've had several complaints, and it turned out that probably half the people who are speeding actually live in that area. Occasionally it's business districts where people live somewhere else. Throughout the year, we track specifically who gets the citations, how old they are, male, female, age, teenagers, what city they're from. So we have a really good statistical breakdown of whether, it's Cerritos residents that are creating the violations or people from out of town. But in the case that you talk about, it's easy enough to assign a deputy to go over there and monitor the intersection for compliance.
yeah, I'm wondering if there's not a possibility of putting a visual cue when somebody is walking through that intersection. It's not a busy intersection for people crossing, and so maybe a visual cue, a flashing light or something like that would alert the driver, because most of the time there's nobody crossing. So I think most people just don't pay attention, I imagine. But just a thought on that one.
I would defer that to Public Works to go out and do the physical assessment of what would be required.
We'll look at that intersection.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thank you. Um, on the density, housing density part, I recall there was some discussion about a multi-use development coming where the previous Sears was in the mall. Is there any updates on that one?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Gandhi. So you are correct. The city has been in continuous discussions over the last couple years with the property owner of the Los Cerritos Center, the property owner being Macerich. As of today, the city of Cerritos does not have applications for the development of a mixed-use housing / retail / open space, et cetera, development at the mall. That's as of now. But staff is in communications with Macerich, and we have seen and have provided input on conceptual site plans and schematics for what that would look like.
Okay, thank you much. As far as affordable housing is concerned, are there any plans, considering the population of the city is aging, for additional senior housing in the city?
Yes, you are correct. The population is aging. As of today, currently, the city does not have any applications for the development of affordable housing, a new affordable housing development in the city. But like the previous response, the city is in discussions with several private property owners for whether it be an inquiry or just discussions on reuse of properties. We do, with the state's requirement for 1,908 units, as mentioned, we have identified in our housing element 5 suitable sites for the construction of, or excuse me, not for the construction, but for 5 suitable sites for the development of housing, including very low, and moderate income housing at those sites. We are in discussions with all 5 of those sites' property owners, but as of today, we do not have any applications in for the construction of development housing, affordable housing, excuse me.
And specifically senior housing?
Correct. We have no applications today for the development of senior housing or affordable housing.
Okay. On the conservation element, does the city of Cerritos do harvesting of rainwater? No?
I'm not aware of it.
Okay. I somehow remember paying on a bond that the state floated for conserving rainwater. So I guess we got no part of it, or we don't do anything here?
I'm not aware of it.
Okay. All right. On the question of the newsletter or the newspaper, the Cerritos News, and I get one every time, and I do bother to read it, and so it's kind of nice. But I'm trying to figure out how much. I don't know what the word for it is, but we incur a substantial cost as a city to mail out these newsletters to every household. Do you have any idea about like how many people actually bother using it, reading it? Do you have any feedback or anything like that?
Thank you, Commissioner. I will go ahead and defer to our Public Information Office Manager, Andrew, and also City Librarian Marketing Manager, Annie, to address your question.
I will jump in first. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you very much for your question. We do have very good feedback in terms of the residents responding well to the newsletter, and we can base that on the responses. For an example, when the newsletter comes out for people to sign up for all the really nice recreation programs, we have the community services program that comes out 4 times per year, and it's very helpful for parents and for individuals for themselves, parents signing up their kids or people that want to take classes themselves. It's a very helpful piece that they can go through and reference and make their plans to register for classes. At the library, we also include our library news every month, and based on the response to our registrations and also attendance at our programs, we feel that that message is being well received and the newsletter is being well utilized. And we've also received feedback through the years when we have publicized information solely in the newsletter about upcoming meetings and programs, and there has been a good response. We feel that that is a well-used piece and it is read by the community. And the cost per piece is fairly economical because we take advantage of what's known as every door direct mail. And so it's not mailed first class. And so it may come out a little slower, not overnight, but it goes out fairly quickly. And it's just a very efficient, consistent way. We've been publishing the newsletter for more than 50 years, and we do have anecdotal and factual information that it does appear to be very well read and well received by the community.
Thank you very much. And I've seen the YouTube channel for the city of Cerritos, and thank you for doing that, because trying to get to the video player and the archives on the city website was quite a difficult task. On that note, would you be kind enough and give me some more information about the city's participation in social media and other places?
Good evening, Commissioners. Andrew Baumgartner, Acting Public Information Manager. Yeah, so we have, about a year ago, the city launched new social media to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And recently, we have been implementing new strategies and new designs to our social media. So if you follow the city on any of those platforms, you will see these new designs. And we are hoping to implement video and more multimedia to these projects as well.
What's the initial response been in terms of participation?
It's harder to tell. The city does not allow currently does not allow commenting on social media posts. However, we have noticed that our following has been growing, especially on our Instagram. We're getting close to 800 followers on Instagram within a year, which is pretty good. And we're getting substantial likes on our new designs. So that's how we kind of gauge it for the moment.
Thank you. Along the same line, if I can ask, and maybe you have the information or not, but there is a new website that's being designed for the city of Cerritos. Is there any information you can share with us on that?
Sure. So we are creating a new website for the city. And that has been a pretty long process. It's a pretty big website with lots of content. We are hoping to hopefully launch it later, probably mid-year, we're hoping. Obviously, it's a very big project, and the company we've been working with has been very knowledgeable and helpful. So we will provide more information at a later date when we have more of a launch date at that time.
Thank you. And in terms of the, I think it was the fiber for the high-speed internet, any updates on those?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Commissioner Gandhi. Again, as we mentioned earlier, we're looking for every opportunistic project. We have a large street project, approximately, I believe, 3 miles of arterial street section that we will be bringing to City Council as an additional project where we could put 2 4-inch conduits in the street. We just completed with the Public Works Department, we just completed adding 2 4-inch conduit to the half-mile section on Gridley between South going north to 183rd. We also completed this year a half-mile section on Studebaker, adjacent to Liberty Park, so from 195th to South Street. And again, at City Council's direction, we are accelerating this process, and we are looking at, in coordination with the integrated street traffic signal conduits, we've determined that we have capacity within that conduit to potentially replace the copper wires there with fiber optic cables, which would accelerate what City Council directed in terms of the bandwidth, the trenching project that they wanted for this municipal broadband project. So in doing that, we would accelerate the project as well as make it more economical.
Sorry, I'm going to ask you in terms of percentage, like what percentage of the city has already had the fibers laid?
It's very low, very low. I would say probably, I think there's approximately 32 to 35 miles of arterial streets, and we have approximately 2 miles.
And
So very low.
okay.
And again, this is conduit only. There is no interconnected fiber within these conduit at this point.
And so the whole project of putting fiber through, what's like the estimated time frame for this?
City Council has directed us to be very aggressive with this project, and the goal is to focus on phases 1, 2, and 3. The phases 1 was the Cerritos Town Center. Phase 2 was the Los Cerritos Center Mall, as well as the Auto Mall. And phase 3 was the industrial park. So, yes, moving
Thank
very,
you.
very rapidly.
Thank you very much. That's all the questions, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so you took enough time that I had one more question. I didn't want our Parks and Recs department to be left out. I actually liked what I saw on page 29 with the OSR-2, and it's referring to the annual evaluation of residents' open space and recreational needs. It says the objective is to implement an annual evaluation of the residents' views to gauge the community recreational needs. And it talks about some of the options of how that would happen. I think that's an amazing idea. When people are really passionate about something, pickleball, you hear about it all the time. But there's many residents out there that, they're not going to necessarily come forward and seek you out to tell you that we need more pickleball courts. Nothing wrong with pickleball, by the way. This survey, I think, is a great idea. It's going to be able to throw the net, cast it wide across the city to get more ideas and more understanding of what the families that live here, what they want. Can you tell me about the timing and maybe a little more detail about that?
Absolutely. Good evening, all of you. We've actually implemented this process. So in years past, it used to be paper. Back in the day, we would send surveys to all participants. Our brochure is divided into sections. So preschool, adults, teens, aquatics, golf. We would take a section or two, sometimes three, depending upon the size of the class or the number of classes that we offer each quarter. And we would send those evaluations to every participant. And typically it was the parents of the participant. We would get about 20% return on those because you have to mail them back or you can drop them off at one of the facilities. With our new Civic Rec registration and facility reservation system, we have an opportunity to email everyone. And that has given us a greater return. We get about a 50 to 60% return. One of the things I will say as a former resident, I grew up here in this wonderful city, people in Cerritos have no problem calling, walking into the park, coming into City Hall to tell us what they want. And a lot of the classes and activities you see are a direct result of someone coming in and saying, hey, it would really be great if. And so we have staff in different areas that will take a look at those ifs. And if we're able to, and it's feasible and it fits in our area, it's not library-based or something of that sort, we'll try and find a contract instructor to teach that, an expert in that field, and we'll implement it into the recreation system. Some of our classes have, kind of gone by the wayside. COVID really did a number on us. A lot of folks either moved out of the state, stopped teaching, so we have, or retired, actually looking for a tennis instructor right now because we had a longtime instructor who taught for us for over 25 years. So we're preparing an RFP to get a new tennis instructor. And one of the goals of recreation, as you might know, and I'm looking at many of you who have had kids that have gone through the educational system here, we are the start. It's where they start. They learn the basics. It's very affordable. gives them a sampling of different things, arts and dance and music and sports, swimming. Those students end up matriculating into the schools in the area, and they become members of the sports teams, right? But they get their start in our programs and all of our recreation leagues. And so that's the uniqueness of this community. And we have a really unique opportunity because we have a relationship with the ABC Unified School District where we share recreational facilities, both theirs and ours. And that allows the students to, they're familiar with the gyms or the fields or the pool. It's a big one. So it continues on. You start off as a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old, and then a 7-year-old, and then it keeps getting you keep getting progressively better. You find your niche, and then you utilize that when you get to high school and you're on those sports teams. So a lot of the kids that were here the other day for the Cerritos High School recognition, they won CIF. A lot of those kids started off in our football league as flag football players. So it's a great thing. The evaluation program is robust, and again, people have no problem. I answered 3 seamless docs today for people who are interested in something, and so we always look at every single one of them, and we take them all very seriously. I'm not taking classes. I'm not 7 years old. That child might be interested in something. The Lego classes and camps, which I can't have enough of those. I could offer 10 more, and they would still be full with a wait list. That came as a result of someone whose friend had gone to one in another city, and we looked into it. So it's just how things happen kind of naturally and organically here. So
Okay, great. So the participants of the programs, they get quarterly some kind of, please give us feedback. But I think what's really important is you talked about that anybody can walk into one of the facilities, they can come in here, they can ask for you or whomever in the Recs department and talk about, hey, I saw this Lego thing and let's go do it. So I would encourage our residents to take advantage of that. And I will also confirm that my son came up through the ranks. My husband coached for years in the city, then he played at Artesia. This is how Commissioner Gandhi and I know each other. Our sons play together. It's an amazing foundational program. It's one of the best that I've seen around, and it costs almost nothing.
Yeah.
When you compare it to other cities, we have an amazing park and recs department and what you guys do over there. So I applaud you for that.
Well, we couldn't do it without the council's support and their funding. So we appreciate that.
Yeah.
So
Good.
it's a win-win.
So I don't have any other questions or comments. I think we have some go backs.
Yeah, since she encouraged everybody to ask, I'm going to ask, has anybody ever asked you about a cricket ground in Cerritos?
We have excuse me, Mr. Gandhi. We have a lot of cricket play. We have a lot of drop-in cricket play. We're able to convert or modify, I guess, for lack of a better term, our softball field. So there's no specific field that you need, as you know, because I think you play cricket. So we're able to accommodate that. We get a lot of residents booking fields, which residents can book fields at no charge for an hour and a half. They can come and do a drop-in game of soccer, softball, cricket. And so, yeah, we have a pretty robust cricket program as far as the drop-in is concerned. We don't have any instruction. We tried really hard, but it was very expensive. And again, we want to keep the cost low enough so people can afford to go. And it's not going to, break the bank, if you will. So, but if we find anything, we always want to bring it in. So somebody else might find that they like cricket. So.
Thank you.
Commissioner Plato?
Thank you, Vice Chair. My question is, first of all, I wanted to thank you to our staff for being here and for your hard work on this annual progress report. My question was for circulation element 5. I applaud the city and the great partnership with our school district. And to add on what Commissioner Gandhi had talked about, concern about pedestrian safety is a big priority, and especially with our students that go to the district. I might have just had a question about, because it says there's 26 crossing guards for 11 schools, and I know there's 19 elementary schools. So for so some of these crossing guards, there's if you amount, it's about 2 crossing guards per these 11 schools. And then for these schools, is there, are all of them, is all of them a street light or non-street light? And then how do you determine how more crossing guards are needed? My question.
Thank you for the question, Ms. Polito. Yes, the city does have 26 crossing guards, and we oversee 23 intersections. All the crossing guards work in support of elementary school. In other words, we don't provide crossing guards for middle schools or high schools, but sometimes they benefit from that because of the proximity, but it's primarily addressed to elementary school children. And as far as the location goes, these intersections have been the same for many, many years. It comes back to volume. We occasionally look at them. There's several intersections that we cover now that receive very little traffic just because the changes over the time. And so what we do is we reallocate some of the crossing guards to other intersections that exist, not new intersections, but in support of. There's one up there by 166 in Carmenita that is very busy at times, so we'll have 2 crossing guards up there. But we have not identified any new intersections. But should the need arise, we would go out there and take a look at it and see what the traffic hazards might be, what's the traffic volume, how many children actually would benefit from a crossing guard there. Just as a overall, so you can appreciate it, we have one part-time pedestrian safety coordinator that oversees the program, 26 crossing guards, and the city spends approximately $485,000 per year on the crossing guard program. It's an essential program. If you're not familiar with it, because we've worked with the ABC School District before for cost sharing opportunities and those sort of things, but the jurisdiction of the school ends at the curb. And so it's the city's responsibility to provide crossing guards if they choose to. There's no law that mandates that they do it, but the city places high priority on public safety, and the city is elected to put the crossing guards out there. So as far as expanding the program, there's always that possibility, but we would have to go out and look at the need and confirm that we needed crossing guards. Is there a particular intersection that may come to mind that you're thinking about?
I just like I know on Gridley, that street that, well, I know it's on Artesia, but then I know part of it's Cerritos. So for example, Gridley and that there's not like there's places that there's no street lights, so it kind of concerns me about pedestrian safety because even more the students are at risk. I don't have a particular place I'm concerned about, but just in general, especially those that don't have like a lighter, is of great concern.
Thank you. And we'll contact ABC School to see, their input. We haven't received any requests from the school district itself to add crossing guards. So, if someone becomes aware of a problem, we'll certainly go out and assess it.
Thank you.
Okay, with no further comments or questions, we'll move on to the next agenda item. 8, Communications. Director Aguila, can you tell us about the Department of Community Development reports?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Gilheis. I don't have anything to report this evening. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll move on to 8B, which is reports from the Cerritos Planning Commissioners. So we'll start with you, Commissioner Byrd. Do you have any reports? Great. Commissioner Polito?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Just wanted to mention that I attended the MLK ceremony and wanted to thank the City Council and Chelsea and her staff for a wonderful job as always. Every year you just exceed expectations. Again, the event was filled to capacity, and I think you're outgrowing your venue. I just want to thank the multiple partners who do the food collection, to all the students that are involved in the presentations, the speakers, and congratulations to all the contest winners. Pretty much everyone that was involved. It was a really, really great event. Thank you.
Commissioner Gandhi?
I just wanted to say, with the recent rain event we had, I didn't see any down trees, didn't see any flooded streets. So thank you very much for keeping it nice and clear for us and safe for us. So thank you much.
Okay, I don't have any further comments, so if there's no more comments or items on the agenda, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.